We invite strangers into our homes every day. We trust them with our children, our routines, our most vulnerable moments. We hand over our keys, our alarm codes, the sacred rhythm of our family life to people we've known for mere hours. We tell ourselves we're careful. We run background checks. We call references. We look into their eyes and search for something. Kindness, warmth, trustworthiness. And when we find it, we exhale. We let them in. But what happens when that trust becomes a trap you can't escape? What happens when the person you invited to help becomes the nightmare you can't wake up from? Tonight, I'm going to share 3 true stories about babysitters and nannies. But these aren't the stories you're expecting. These aren't tales of teenagers fending off masked intruders or children seeing ghosts in the hallway. No, these stories are far worse. Because in each one, the horror didn't break down the door. It was welcomed through it. It smiled. It shook hands. It said all the right things. And by the time anyone realized the truth, it was already too late. Our first story begins in the suburbs of Sacramento, California. The year was 2019, and Anna Dales had just turned 28 years old. She should have been celebrating. She had everything she'd ever wanted: a beautiful home in a quiet cul-de-sac, a loving husband named Kyle Roberson who worked as a software engineer, and a 3-month-old baby girl named Sophie who had her mother's eyes and her father's stubborn chin. But Anna wasn't celebrating. She was drowning. Motherhood had hit her like a freight train. The sleepless nights had blurred into sleepless weeks. Her body ached in places she didn't know could ache. She loved Sophie with a ferocity that frightened her, but she was exhausted in a way that went beyond tired. It was bone deep, soul deep, the kind of exhaustion that makes you cry in the shower and forget why you walked into a room. Kyle tried to help, but his job demanded long hours and frequent travel. Her own mother lived 3 states away and had her own health problems to manage. Anna's friends had slowly stopped calling. She needed help, real help, professional help. The search for a nanny consumed what little energy Anna had left. She posted on every reputable website, joined local parent groups, and asked everyone she knew for recommendations. She interviewed 7 candidates in 2 weeks. Some were too young, barely out of high school, with more interest in their phones than in Sophie. Others seemed distracted, their eyes wandering around the house as if calculating the value of the furniture. One woman showed up 20 minutes late and smelled faintly of cigarettes, though she swore she didn't smoke. And then Melanie Garcia walked through the door. Melanie was 62 years old, with silver hair pulled back in a neat bun and laugh lines that crinkled around warm brown eyes. She wore a modest floral blouse and sensible shoes, and she carried a leather binder filled with references, certifications, and photographs of the families she'd helped over the past 30 years. Her handshake was firm but gentle. Her smile was the kind that made you feel like everything was going to be okay. "You must be Anna," she said, her voice soft and melodic, carrying just a hint of an accent Anna couldn't quite place. "And this must be little Sophie. Oh my, look at those cheeks. She's absolutely precious." Anna felt something loosen in her chest. For the first time in months, she felt like she could breathe. The interview lasted 2 hours, though it felt like minutes. Melanie spoke about her experience with the easy confidence of someone who had seen it all. Colicky babies, picky toddlers, teenagers going through phases. She'd handled medical emergencies, navigated difficult divorces, and helped families through every imaginable crisis. Her references were immaculate. Anna called 3 of them that night, and each one gushed about Melanie like she was a saint sent from heaven. "She saved our family," one woman said, her voice thick with emotion. "I don't know what we would have done without her." Kyle was more cautious. "She seems almost too perfect," he said that night as they lay in bed, Sophie finally asleep in her crib. "Doesn't that worry you?" Anna shook her head. "I think we've just gotten so used to disappointment that we don't recognize a good thing when we see it. She's experienced, she's kind, and she's available. What more could we ask for?" Kyle was quiet for a moment. "I guess you're right. Let's give it a try." Later, Anna would realize this was the last night the house truly belonged to her. Melanie moved into the guest room the following Monday. She arrived with 2 modest suitcases and a small box of personal items. No furniture, no excessive belongings, nothing that suggested she planned to put down permanent roots. "I travel light," she explained with that warm smile. "At my age, you learn that things are just things. People are what matter." The first 3 weeks were nothing short of miraculous. Anna woke up to the smell of fresh coffee and breakfast already prepared. Sophie's bottles were sterilized and ready, her tiny clothes washed and folded with military precision. Melanie seemed to anticipate every need before Anna even knew she had it. When Sophie cried, Melanie was there with a gentle bounce and a soft lullaby. When Anna struggled to produce enough milk, Melanie researched lactation consultants and scheduled appointments without being asked. When Kyle came home late from work, dinner was waiting in the warming drawer. "I don't know how she does it," Anna confessed to her mother during one of their weekly phone calls. "She's like Mary Poppins, but real." Her mother laughed. "Sounds like you found a gem. Hold on to her." Anna intended to do exactly that. But then the small things started. It began with the locks. Anna noticed it on a Thursday afternoon, about 3 weeks after Melanie moved in. She was walking past the guest room when she heard a clicking, metallic sound. She paused, her hand raised to knock, when the door swung open. "Melanie, I scared you," she laughed, but something in her eyes flickered. "I was just organizing my things. Did you need something?" "No, I thought I heard something." Melanie's smile returned, warm and reassuring. "Old bones creaking, probably. Or maybe the house settling. These California homes, they shift with the heat, you know." Anna nodded slowly. "Right, of course." But that night, after Melanie had retired to her room, Anna crept down the hallway. She tried the guest room door, just for curiosity, just to prove to herself that she was being paranoid. It was locked. Anna stood there for a long moment, her hand on the cold brass knob. Melanie had never mentioned wanting a lock. The guest room hadn't even had a lock when they moved in. Anna would have noticed. She knew every inch of this house. Someone had installed a lock on the inside of the guest room door. A chill ran down Anna's spine, but she pushed it away. Maybe Melanie was just a private person. Maybe she'd asked Kyle about it and he'd forgotten to mention it. There had to be a reasonable explanation. She went to bed and didn't mention it to Kyle. But she started watching. The way Melanie seemed to know where Anna was in the house. The way she appeared in doorways just as Anna was reaching for something. The way she answered Anna's phone once when Anna was in the shower, explaining to the caller that Mrs. Dales is indisposed at the moment. "Who was that?" Anna asked when she emerged, toweling her hair. "Just a telemarketer, nothing important." But Anna checked the call log later. It had been her mother. Then came the mail. Anna was sorting through bills and junk mail one afternoon when she noticed something strange. A thick envelope addressed to Melanie Garcia at their home address. Official looking, important. Anna's fingers hovered over it, curiosity gnawing at her. "That's mine, dear." Anna jumped. Melanie had appeared behind her, silent as a ghost, her hand extended. "I didn't mean to pry. Of course you weren't." Melanie's smile didn't waver, but her eyes had gone flat, cold, like someone had flipped a switch behind them. "It's just some paperwork, boring legal things. You know how it is at my age. Always documents to sign." She took the envelope from Anna's hand, and for just a moment, their fingers touched. Melanie's skin was ice cold. That night, Anna couldn't sleep. She lay in bed staring at the ceiling, listening to the house settle around her. Kyle snored softly beside her. Sophie's baby monitor glowed green on the nightstand, the only sound the gentle white noise of the nursery fan. And then she heard it. Footsteps, slow and deliberate, moving down the hallway outside their bedroom door. Anna held her breath. The footsteps paused directly outside their room. She could almost feel someone standing there, separated from her by just 2 inches of wood. Then the footsteps continued, moving towards Sophie's room. Anna's heart exploded in her chest. She threw off the covers and lunged for the door, yanking it open so hard it bounced against the wall. The hallway was empty, dark, silent. She ran to Sophie's room. The door was ajar, just slightly. though Anna was certain she'd closed it completely. Inside, Sophie slept peacefully in her crib, her tiny chest rising and falling. Standing by the window, bathed in moonlight, was Melanie. She was fussing, Melanie said without turning around. I heard her on my way to get water, but she's settled now. Go back to bed, Anna. You need your rest. Anna's throat was so tight she could barely speak. Why didn't you use the monitor? It would have alerted us. Now Melanie turned. Her face was cast in shadow, but Anna could see the curve of her smile. I didn't want to wake you, dear. That's what I'm here for, to help. Anna backed out of the room slowly, unable to tear her eyes away from Melanie's silhouette. She didn't sleep for the rest of the night. The next morning, Anna made a decision. She pulled Kyle aside before he left for work, her voice barely above a whisper. I think we need to let Melanie go. Kyle frowned. What? Why? I thought things were going great. Something's not right. I can feel it. Kyle sighed, running a hand through his hair. Anna, honey, you're exhausted. You're seeing problems where there aren't any. Melanie is the best thing that's happened to us in months. Kyle, she installed a lock on her door. She intercepts our mail. She wanders the house at night. She's 62 years old. Maybe she can't sleep. Maybe she has trouble with her bladder. These aren't crimes, Anna. He kissed her forehead. Just give it a little more time. He was gone before she could argue. That afternoon, Anna steeled herself and walked to Melanie's room. She knocked twice firmly. Come in, came the sweet voice from inside. Anna pushed open the door and froze. The room had been transformed. What was once a simple guest room with beige walls and generic artwork was now occupied. Personal items covered every surface. Photographs decorated the dresser, knitting supplies spilled across the bed. A small television sat on the desk, tuned to a soap opera with the volume down. And there, hanging on the back of the door, was a wrathbobe that Anna recognized. Because it was her wrathbobe, the one that had gone missing from her bathroom 2 weeks ago. Melanie sat in the corner armchair, a cup of tea in her hand, watching Anna with eyes that suddenly didn't seem warm at all. Can I help you, dear? Anna's mouth went dry. Melanie, I think we need to talk about your future here. The words hung in the air like a guillotine blade. Melanie set down her tea. She didn't blink. She didn't frown. But something shifted in her face, something subtle and terrible, like watching a mask slip just enough to reveal the darkness underneath. What exactly do you mean, Anna? I mean that I don't think this arrangement is working out. I think it would be best if you found another family. Silence. Then Melanie laughed. A soft, gentle laugh, like a grandmother amused by a child's silly question. Oh, Anna, sweet, tired, overwhelmed Anna. She rose from her chair slowly, and Anna took an involuntary step backward. I don't think you understand what's happening here, so let me explain it very simply. She reached into the drawer of the nightstand and pulled out a manila folder. Inside were papers, official papers, documents covered in stamps and signatures and legal language. I've been living here for over 30 days. I receive mail at this address. I have established residency under California law. Melanie's smile widened. Do you know what that means, dear? It means that this is my home now, too, and you can't make me leave. Not without a formal eviction process. Not without lawyers and courts and months of legal proceedings. Melanie stepped closer. Close enough that Anna could smell her perfume, something floral and cloying. And if you try to force me out, if you try to change the locks or move my things or make my life unpleasant in any way, well, I'm a 62-year-old woman, and elderly abuse is a very serious crime in this state. Anna couldn't breathe. The walls were closing in. I don't understand, she whispered. Why are you doing this? Melanie tilted her head, studying Anna like a scientist examining a particularly interesting specimen. "Because I can, dear. Because you invited me in. Because people like you always do." She returned to her armchair and picked up her tea, settling back as if nothing had happened. "Now, I think I'll take dinner in my room tonight. Something light. Maybe that salmon I saw in the refrigerator. You'll bring it up around 6, won't you?" Anna's legs moved without her permission, carrying her backward out of the room. She called Kyle. He didn't answer. She called 3 lawyers. The first 2 confirmed everything Melanie had said. The third offered to take the case, but warned her it could take 4 to 6 months to complete the eviction process. 4 to 6 months, Anna repeated, her voice cracking. "I'm sorry, ma'am. California tenant laws are very protective. If she's established residency, your options are limited." Anna hung up the phone and stared at it in her hand. Somewhere above her, she heard footsteps, slow and deliberate, moving from room to room. Melanie was walking through her house. Melanie was here to stay, and there was absolutely nothing Anna could do about it. That night, as Anna lay rigid in her bed, listening to Sophie breathe through the monitor and Kyle snore beside her, she heard the guest room door creak open. Footsteps padded down the hall. They paused outside the master bedroom, lingering for 1 heartbeat, 2, 3. Then they continued on toward the nursery. Anna squeezed her eyes shut and prayed for morning. But morning, she knew, wouldn't save her, because the monster wasn't outside trying to get in. The monster was already inside, and she had handed her the key. Story 2. If Anna's story taught us that monsters can hide behind warm smiles and legal documents, our next story reveals something even more terrifying. Because sometimes the people holding you captive don't think they're the villains. Sometimes they believe with every fiber of their being that they are the victims. And you're the threat they need to neutralize. This is the story of Amanda Burns and the mansion that became her prison. Amanda was 24 years old when she found the job listing that would change her life forever. She was living in a cramped studio apartment in Los Angeles, the kind with water stains on the ceiling and neighbors who screamed at each other through paper-thin walls. She'd moved to California 3 years earlier with dreams of becoming an actress, like thousands of other hopeful young women before her. She'd taken classes, attended auditions, worked as a background extra on a handful of forgettable television shows. But the big break never came. The callbacks dried up. The savings account dwindled to nothing. By the spring of 2021, Amanda was working 3 part-time jobs just to cover rent. Waitressing at a diner that smelled permanently of burnt coffee, walking dogs for wealthy people who barely looked at her, babysitting for families who paid cash under the table and never remembered her name. She was exhausted, defeated, and seriously considering moving back to Ohio to live with her parents. Then she saw the posting on a nanny website she'd signed up for months ago and forgotten about. Live-in nanny needed for private family in Malibu. Care for 1 child, age 5. Private quarters provided. Salary, $75,000 annually, plus room and board. Discretion required. Amanda read it 3 times to make sure she wasn't hallucinating. $75,000 for watching 1 kid in Malibu with free housing? It had to be a scam. But she applied anyway, because what did she have to lose? The response came within hours. A phone interview was scheduled for the following day. The woman who called introduced herself as Amy Klassen. Her voice was soft, almost whispery, with a dreamlike quality that made Amanda think of wind chimes and meditation retreats. "We're a very private family," Amy explained. "My husband John used to work in technology, very high level, very visible. We've retreated from that world now, but there are still people who wish us harm, people who want to destroy what we've built. That's why discretion is so important to us." Amanda nodded along, even though Amy couldn't see her. Rich people were paranoid. That wasn't exactly news. We have a son, Oliver. He's 5. He's special, sensitive. He needs someone who can be fully present with him, someone who isn't distracted by the outside world. She paused. Do you have a boyfriend, Amanda? Family? Close friends who might demand your attention? Amanda thought about her empty apartment, her disconnected phone when she couldn't pay the bill, the friends who'd stopped inviting her to things because she could never afford to go. No, it's just me. Perfect. Amy's voice warmed. That's absolutely perfect. The in-person interview was scheduled for the following week at the Kirkman estate. Amy sent a car, a black SUV with tinted windows driven by a silent man in a dark suit. Amanda had never been picked up by a private driver before. She felt like a celebrity. She felt like her luck was finally changing. The drive took nearly 2 hours, winding up into the hills above Malibu, past gated communities and private roads, until even the mansions disappeared, and there was nothing but oak trees and sky. The Kirkman estate emerged from the landscape like something out of a fairy tale, a sprawling Mediterranean villa with terracotta roofs and climbing bougainvillea, surrounded by manicured gardens and a stone wall that seemed to go on forever. The gate opened automatically as they approached, and Amanda caught a glimpse of security cameras mounted on the pillars. Lots of them. Later, she would realize that those cameras pointed inward, not outward. They weren't designed to keep intruders out. They were designed to keep residents in. Amy Klassen met her at the front door. She was beautiful in an ethereal, almost translucent way. Pale skin, white blonde hair that floated around her face, eyes so light blue they were almost colorless. She wore a flowing linen dress and no shoes, her toenails painted a soft pink. Amanda. She took both Amanda's hands in hers, her grip surprisingly strong. I knew, the moment I heard your voice on the phone, I knew you were the one. Do you believe in fate? Amanda smiled uncertainly. I think things happen for a reason. They do. They absolutely do. Amy's eyes searched Amanda's face with an intensity that was almost uncomfortable. Come, let me show you your new home. The interior of the mansion was stunning. High ceilings with exposed wooden beams, priceless art on every wall. But something about it felt off. Maybe it was the silence, thick and heavy, like the house was holding its breath. Maybe it was the way Amy moved through the rooms without making a sound. Or maybe it was the fact that every window they passed was locked, and not just locked, sealed. Amanda noticed the security bars behind the elegant curtains, painted white to blend in, but unmistakably there. For protection, Amy said, following Amanda's gaze. You understand. She met Oliver in the garden. He was a beautiful child with his mother's pale coloring and solemn gray eyes that seemed too old for his face. He sat on a stone bench surrounded by toy soldiers, arranging them in precise formations. Oliver, sweetheart, this is Amanda. She's going to be your new friend. Oliver looked up. His gaze moved slowly over Amanda's face, analytically. Then he returned to his soldiers without a word. He doesn't speak much, Amy murmured. Not anymore. Not since... Well, that's not important now.
Amanda met John Kirkman at dinner that evening. He was older than Amy by at least 15 years, with silver hair and sharp features and eyes that never seemed to blink. He'd made his fortune in Silicon Valley, some kind of software company that had been bought for hundreds of millions of dollars. They're vultures, he said, his voice low and intense. All of them, circling, waiting for weakness. You can't trust anyone in that world. Anyone. His eyes stayed fixed on Amanda throughout the meal, watching, evaluating. Later, Amy showed Amanda to her quarters, a beautiful suite on the second floor with a 4-poster bed and a private bathroom. The windows had the same security bars as the rest of the house. For your protection, Amy said again, we've had incidents. Amanda accepted this explanation because she wanted to, because the salary was $75,000 a year, because she was tired of being nobody. She should have asked more questions. She should have wondered why a family this wealthy had trouble keeping nannies. But Amanda didn't notice. Not then. The first 2 weeks were strange but manageable. Oliver warmed to her slowly. He started speaking to her in whispers, telling her about his toy soldiers and the imaginary kingdoms they ruled. He laughed at her silly voices during story time. "You're good with him," Amy observed one afternoon. "He hasn't connected with anyone like this since Rebecca." "Rebecca?" Amy's face flickered, something dark passing behind her eyes. "The last nanny. She didn't work out." "What happened to her?" "She was disloyal," Amy's voice hardened. "She was reporting to people outside the family. We had to let her go." That night, Amanda lay in her beautiful bed and tried to shake the feeling that something was very wrong. But she dreamed of locked windows and security bars and Oliver's gray eyes staring at her without blinking. And when she woke up, she realized her bedroom door was locked from the outside. She tried the handle 3 times before accepting what her brain refused to believe. She banged on the door, called out, her voice rising with panic. 5 minutes passed, 10. Then footsteps. Soft, unhurried. The lock clicked. The door swung open. Amy stood there in her nightgown, her expression serene. "Oh, Amanda, I'm so sorry. We must have activated the security protocols by accident." She laughed lightly. "Did you sleep well?" Amanda's heart was still pounding. "Why would the security protocol lock me in my room?" "For your protection, of course, in case of an intruder." Amy tilted her head. "You're not upset, are you?" Something in Amy's gaze stopped her, a warning disguised as concern. "No, I'm not upset," she heard herself say. "Good. Breakfast is in 20 minutes. Don't be late. John doesn't like it when people are late." "Get out," a voice whispered in Amanda's head. "Get out now while you still can." But where would she go? She had no car, no phone. She'd left it in her apartment because Amy had explained that cellular signals disrupted the energy of the house. No money except what was owed to her at the end of the month. She was trapped, and she was only beginning to understand it. The changes came gradually, like a tide rising so slowly you don't notice until the water is at your throat. First, it was the questions. Where did she grow up? Did she have many friends as a child? Had she ever worked in technology? "Actress," John repeated the word one evening at dinner. "That's interesting. Actresses are trained to be convincing, to make people believe things that aren't true." I suppose so." "And before that, college? Any internships?" "I studied drama at Ohio State." "Ohio State? That's not far from Columbus. Do you know what's in Columbus, Amanda?" She shook her head. "Data Vault, one of the largest data security companies in the country, founded by Marcus Webb, my former partner, my former friend, the man who tried to destroy everything I built." Amy reached over and squeezed his hand. "John, not at the table." "She needs to understand. Marcus Webb has been trying to infiltrate our family for years. He sends people, operatives. They pretend to be housekeepers, gardeners, nannies. They gather information and report back to him." Amanda's throat was dry. "I don't know anyone named Marcus Webb. I've never even heard of Data Vault." That's exactly what an operative would say. That night, Amanda tried to call her mother from the landline in the study. The line was dead. She tried every phone in the house, all dead. She found her cell phone hidden in Amy's studio, the battery removed. She was completely cut off from the outside world. The next morning, Oliver found her crying in the garden. He sat down beside her and placed one of his toy soldiers in her hand. "It's my favorite one. He's brave. He protects people." "Thank you, Oliver." The others didn't last very long. His voice was matter-of-fact. "Rebecca was here for 2 months. Sarah before her was only 3 weeks. Daddy said they were spies. Mommy said they had to go away." Amanda's blood turned to ice. "Go away where?" Oliver shrugged. "I don't know. They just went away." He looked up at her. "I hope you don't go away, Amanda. I like you." Before she could respond, Amy's voice floated across the garden. "Amanda, John wants to speak to you."
Amanda found John in his study, standing in front of a corkboard covered in photographs, some of men in suits, some of buildings, some of license plates, and some of Amanda.
Pictures of her arriving at the estate, pictures of her playing with Oliver, pictures of her sleeping, taken through her bedroom window by the security cameras. "Don't be alarmed," John said. "This is standard procedure. We document everyone who enters our lives." "You've been photographing me while I sleep?" "The cameras photograph everyone. It's automatic." He turned, his expression almost sympathetic. "I know this must seem extreme, but you have to understand, Amy and I have been through things you can't imagine." Amanda took a step backward. "I think I should leave." "Leave?" John's eyebrows rose. "And go where? You have no money, no phone, no transportation. The nearest town is 20 miles away, and even if you made it—" He paused. "How would it look? A young woman fleeing a wealthy family's home? We'd have to tell the police our side. We'd have to explain that we caught you stealing, that we have evidence of you going through our personal belongings." Amanda's legs felt like they might give out. "That's not true." "Truth is a flexible concept," John's voice was calm. "It's not about what happened, it's about what can be proven, and we can prove a great deal." He walked past her, pausing at the doorway. "You're safer here, with us. All we ask in return is loyalty, transparency, and time." "Time for what?" John smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. "Time for us to be sure of you." The weeks that followed blurred together in a haze of fear. Amanda's privileges were slowly revoked. Her food was brought to her room on a tray, the portions growing smaller each day. Her access to the house was restricted. Oliver's playroom, the garden, her bedroom. Everywhere else was off-limits. John's interrogations became a nightly ritual, the same questions over and over. Where did she grow up? Who were her friends? Had she ever met anyone named Marcus Webb? Was she reporting to someone? "No," Amanda would say, her voice hoarse. "No, no, no." She lost track of the days. Without her phone, without a calendar, time became meaningless. Was it June? July? Had she been here for a month or 3? Oliver became her only source of comfort. He would sneak her extra food sometimes, crackers from the pantry, fruit from the garden. "The brave soldier saves everyone, even when things are really bad," he would say, pressing the little plastic figure into her hand. One night, she overheard John and Amy arguing through the wall. "She's not breaking," John was saying. 2 months and she hasn't slipped once. Either she's innocent or she's the best operative Marcus has ever sent." "Maybe she's telling the truth," Amy's voice was uncertain. "You're too soft, Amy." A pause. "We need to escalate, apply more pressure." "What kind of pressure?" "The kind that gets results." Amanda pulled away from the wall, her heart hammering. She had to get out, tonight. She waited until the house fell silent, then crept to her door. Locked, of course, but the bathroom window was too small for anyone to fit through, Amy had said. Amy was wrong. Amanda had lost nearly 15 pounds since arriving at the estate. She was thin enough now, barely, to squeeze through the narrow window. It was agonizing. The frame scraped her shoulders raw, tore her shirt, left her bleeding and gasping on the other side. But she was out, standing in the garden in the moonlight. She ran. Through the gardens, past the stone wall, into the dark woods. Branches whipped her face, roots grabbed at her feet. She fell twice, 3 times, tasting blood and dirt, but she kept going. Behind her she heard voices, shouting, the beam of a flashlight. They discovered she was gone. Amanda ran faster, her lungs burning, her empty stomach cramping with each stride. The road had to be close, if she could just reach the road. She burst out of the trees and found herself standing at the edge of a cliff. Below her, nothing but darkness and the distant sound of waves crashing against rocks. She spun around, looking for another path. But there was nothing. Only the cliff behind her and the forest ahead and the flashlight beams growing closer. Amanda.
John's voice cut through the night, calm and terrifying. "There's nowhere to go. Come back to the house. Let's talk about this." Amanda backed toward the edge of the cliff. She could feel the void pulling at her heels, feel the wind rising from the depths below. Her hands were slick with blood from the window frame. Her ribs ached where she'd scraped through. Her head swam with hunger. She hadn't eaten a full meal in a week. "Stay away from me," she screamed. "I'll jump." "No, you won't." John emerged from the trees. Behind him came Amy, her white nightgown glowing like a ghost. "Because you're not suicidal. You're just scared. And you should be. Do you know what happens to spies?" "I'm not a spy." "Marcus Webb has sent 17 operatives to our home over the past 5 years. We've dealt with all of them. Some we turned over to authorities. Some we simply removed."
Amy stepped forward, her hands extended, her expression almost tender. "Come inside, Amanda. You're hurt. You're bleeding. Let me take care of you." "Let me go!" Amanda's voice broke. "Please, I won't tell anyone." "You can't disappear." John's voice was soft now. "You've seen too much. The only way out is through." "Through what?" John and Amy exchanged a look, that terrible, synchronized look that meant they were thinking the same thought, sharing the same delusion. "Through confession," Amy whispered. "Tell us who sent you. Tell us what Marcus wants, and maybe we can find a way forward." Amanda looked at their faces, so earnest, so convinced, so utterly insane. They believed every word. They believed she was a spy. They believed they were the victims. And suddenly she understood the most terrifying truth of all. You can't reason with madness. You can only survive it. "Okay," she heard herself say. "I'll tell you everything." John's eyes lit up. "You will?" "Yes, but not here. Take me back to the house, give me something to eat, and I'll tell you the whole story." It was a lie, the biggest lie of her life, but it was the only card she had left. John and Amy exchanged another look. Then John nodded. "All right, Amanda, let's go home." They led her back through the forest, back into the mansion. Amanda walked between them, her bleeding hands clasped in front of her, feeling every ounce of the 15 pounds she'd lost, every scrape on her body, every hollow ache of hunger in her gut. She had bought herself time, a few hours maybe, but she knew her time was running out. Tomorrow, they would want her confession, and when her lies unraveled, they would decide she was beyond saving, just like Rebecca, just like Sarah, just like all the others. Amanda looked up at the mansion, its windows dark, its cameras watching. Somewhere inside, Oliver was sleeping, clutching his toy soldier, dreaming of brave warriors who save people when things are really bad. She thought about his small hand pressing that soldier into her palm, his gray eyes, so old and so sad. She thought about what would happen to him if she didn't find a way out, and she made a decision. She wasn't going to die in this house. She wasn't going to disappear like the others. She was going to survive, and she was going to take Oliver with her, even if it killed her. The door closed behind her with a soft click. The locks engaged, and somewhere in the darkness, Amanda could swear she heard Amy whisper, "Welcome home."